And with that, speaking of the name Jared, let's dive into Jared Verse's introductory press conference as a member of the Cleveland Browns. It was entertaining. Zach, you were there. It was energetic. Couple of quotes I thought stood out. The first was he said, I can't fill Myles' shoes. Yeah. He wears size 13 Nikes. Right. I wear size 14 Jordans. And then he was asked about his own potential and what his mindset is coming in as a member of the Cleveland Browns. Jared Verse said, quote, I'm not here to fill Myles Garrett's shoes. I'm here to bring my own. I'm here to be the best version of me, and the best version of me is going to be the best defensive player in the league. I love the attitude. I love the excitement. I love the ability to put pressure on yourself to deliver. Yeah. But, Zach, you were there. What'd you make of Jared Verse's introductory press conference, speaking to the Cleveland media for the first time as a member of the Browns?
Yeah, and that one in particular, he's talking more mindset than actually declaration, right? But I thought he was good. He was impressive. He was honest about surprise and the feeling of leaving his team. You know, the guy's already played in more playoff games than Myles has. And unavoidable on this show for Jared, for anybody that makes stat graphics, it's going to be Jared Verse versus Myles Garrett. And it's not fair. They're different players. They're at different stages in their career. But the Browns were not doing this trade without Jared Verse. They've been very clear about that. They're going to extend him almost certainly after this year as soon as he's eligible. He's going to play a similar style. No one is Myles Garrett. No one at 275 pounds dances around like that and explodes like that. But I think he can play him inside a little more. I think he can hold up against the run a little bit better, and the Browns view him as a cornerstone. So, look, the Browns are building a stadium. It doesn't open for years. They're building their roster to match that. And outside that stadium is going to be a statue of Myles Garrett. So, Jared Verse is not going to avoid the comparisons and the links in some form or fashion. So, I'm glad to see that he's embracing it right away. And now, you know, starting this fall, he gets a chance to write his own chapter.
I mentioned to you guys, Jerry Brewer is a columnist with us at The Athletic. Terrific opinion writer, and he's got a little bit of relationship with Jared. I don't know how, because he's based in Seattle, and this is just from covering the NFL. And when they made the trade, we had a call earlier this week, and Jerry said, "You are going to love Jared. He is a quote machine." He said he is like so good with media. He's so like the way that he thinks and the way that he describes things. You're going to love him. And so I was curious to hear what he had to say. I was going to go yesterday to Bria, and I didn't. But I was curious to see the availability. I love the fact that he was honest with, like, yeah, I was mad.
Yeah.
Because, of course, why wouldn't you be mad?
Yeah. Right.
You were living in L.A., playing for a Super Bowl contender, and now you're on a team that's probably going to have a top 10 pick next year. So you better be pissed. If he comes out and says, no, I think you're lying. So I have no issue with him saying, like, yeah, I was mad and I was a little bit frustrated. You should be. But now, you got to just get over that. You got to process those emotions, and you got to be where your feet are. And this is your situation, and you're going to make a lot of money here. Yeah. And they're going to give it to you all up front because that's how they do it. Yeah. So there are bonuses to being here. There are advantages to being here. But I thought it was great that he was honest about his situation.
I'm never going to criticize an athlete for being honest.
Totally with you. I am 1,000% with you.
All we want. Yep. And we ask for honesty. And 99% of the time, we don't get it. So when a player is honest in those situations, I always, even if I don't like what they say, I'm going to applaud the fact that they're being honest and transparent. And I thought that Jared's entire press conference yesterday, the way he answered questions, the way he said, hey, I'm not going to be Myles. Like, it is unfair to expect me to be Myles Garrett because Myles is a one-of-one situation, a one-of-one talent. But the things that I can bring to this defense are different. In some aspects better. I think he might be a better run-stopping defensive end in terms of setting the edge and forcing things back into the middle than Myles was. He has 12 sacks in his career. Myles had 12 sacks between week 8 and 13 last year. So, like, they're different players.
It's incredible.
I know, and it's more of a testament to Myles than it is any kind of knock on Jared.
I know.
But I love the fact that he came in, embraced the situation. He talked about having to talk to his teammates to fully understand and embrace, hey, I'm going from the top of the mountain to a team that's trying to just get to the mountain. And now he understands the task at hand.
Find the right mountain to climb. That's where the Browns are.
The task at hand now is to build a competent defense, to build a competent roster, to be part of the future of the Cleveland Browns because the NFL is a league that goes up and down and up and down. And although the Browns have been mostly down for the last 30-plus years since they moved back here in '99, at some point it does have to start trending in the right direction.
Yeah.
And Jared Verse is going to be a big part of that whenever it happens.
So hearing Andrew Berry say that Jared Verse is a DNA match for their draft is not going to change the mind of any fan who's angry about the Myles Garrett trade, right? But it is something that's going to stick with you and stick with us as we talk about it, because the Browns are going through a rebuild, a remake, no doubt. And this is not a firm commitment to Jared Verse quite yet, because they can't extend him until after next season, but we know what's coming. And we know how the Browns think. They're always lining these things up. They just need to do a little bit better, or maybe a lot better at making them actually link together, right? But this is a guy, they like his makeup, they like his production, they like his versatility, they like over the long term that he's a better player against the run. You're not going to find another Myles Garrett.
No.
And I'm trying to think of the best way I can explain this. Years of covering the draft, going to the Senior Bowl, all these things. Sometimes you just look and you see what a defensive lineman looks like, right? Well, that's different than looking what Myles Garrett looks like, because Myles Garrett is one of one. But when you see Jared Verse, even if you've never seen him play, you're like, okay, that is a guy that's a 6-8 year NFL defensive lineman. And what the Browns have done in their pivot towards fully committing towards 27, 28, 29, again, whether you like it or not, this guy is going to be a cornerstone player, and he's going to play a lot of snaps and produce a lot of numbers, whether they're Myles Garrett sack totals or half Myles. Hell, you can have a great career and have half Myles Garrett sack totals.
Yeah.
What do you think Verse's ceiling as a player actually is, though? He said he wanted, and I know he was talking more mindset than actually becoming that, but he was 7th in the DPOY odds entering this season before the trade. I'm not sure if that's changed since coming to Cleveland and being in a little different
Yeah, that's a lot
situation.
being on your team, yeah.
But what do you think his actual ceiling is, Jason, as a defensive end in football? We're talking about a guy that could end up in a couple of years being one of the 3 or 4 best defensive ends in all of the NFL.
I don't know. I what do you think?
I think he could be in the discussion. I think he'd be near that top tier. I don't know about best of best.
Yeah, like the top tier to me is I mean, obviously Myles is one of one. That he is his own tier, and then it's Micah, and then it's who's Lions guy?
Aiden Hutchinson.
Hutchinson, yeah.
And could he be into that tier? I'll take it if he is.
Yeah.
Like that's a pretty good tier to be in.
It is. Well, look, this could work out personally for Jared Verse, because first of all, when he signs that $30 million, he's going to be Ohio taxed and not California taxed.
Yeah.
But, like, he was always going to be one of the guys with the Rams. Like, he's got a chance to be the guy on the defense, or one of them. You know, we've been talking for months about that lean into Schlesinger, right? Yeah. But we know Denzel Ward's on his way out the door, whether that's in 2 months or 2 years. So this could end up working out for him on a personal basis, and he will always be remembered that way. So if he produces, it doesn't have to be 1-to-1 with Myles Garrett, because Myles Garrett is one of one. But this is a chance for Jared Verse to be remembered and become a star in his own right.
It does feel like, and Earl said it Tuesday, right? Tuesday? Mm-hmm. And I thought he was 100% right. The messaging from the Browns has been all over the place.
Yeah.
And this trade feels like it's a pivot back to reality. Because I don't know what we heard in January. It was nonsense about trying to win, should have won more games. It's like, what are you talking about? Like, were we watching the same games? You were lucky to get to 5. You should have won 2 or 3. So I do feel like it has swung back now to where it's supposed to be, where Jimmy was talking to us at the owners' meetings a couple years ago and said it was a swing and a miss on the trade, and it's going to take us time to dig out of this. I would set aside whatever gibberish you heard after the season, because that's just not planted in reality. They are back in reality now with this move, and they're showing you're exactly right. They've aligned the roster now around the same age. A lot of their key pieces are about the same age. And how long have we been saying, it's all about the dome, guys. It's all about the dome in 2029. And I'm not always like I'm not justifying their thinking. I'm telling you how they're thinking. And this, they aren't the Steelers. They aren't the Eagles. They aren't the Chiefs. They are who they are. And it takes them 3 or 4 years to sort of lift this thing off the ground. And for everyone who says they're constantly rebuilding, that drives me crazy. I'm like, guys, from 2018 until Deshaun was carted off the field, they were trying to win football games.
Yeah.
They were all in. It just turns out
they spent the most money in football.
Yes. They just weren't very good at it. So this idea that they're constantly rebuilding is false. It is not true. From the moment the cart went off the field with him, that's when the rebuild started.
That's all true, and this is a deeper discussion. But not only is it building the stadium, but this money from that there's lingering effects. Well, what's going to happen over the next 2 years is Myles is coming off the books. Deshaun finally, mercifully, hallelujah, is coming off the books. Jared Verse's big contract's going. Fannon's 2 years from going. Schwessinger's 2 years. Like there's going to be a pivot in getting rid of it. They're going to have more money next year. They're probably not going to spend it all, but they're going to continue to push dead money to 27 and 28 and be done with this round of dead money and then get back to spending like crazy, which, by the way, coincides with 28 and 29.
Yeah.
On the Jared Verse ceiling, by the way, he was an older prospect. He was considered more of a high floor, not necessarily super high ceiling prospect because of his age coming out of Florida State. He was 24 years old.
Only 1 year at Florida State.
Yeah. 1 year, had the production, was an All-American. I don't know if he has the ceiling to get into that all-pro level discussion just because of how talented that position is. But he's already a really, really good defensive end in the NFL, a two-time Pro Bowler in his 2 years in the league. He's going to get better at certain aspects. And with the more freedom in this defensive scheme, alongside Malik Collins and Mason Graham and Alex Wright on the defensive line, he could be unlocked in a way that we didn't even see him get unlocked in Los Angeles. Whether that tops him out as a top 6 defensive end in football, top 4, it's an arbitrary number that changes year in, year out, so who knows? All I do know is the Browns got an excellent player in Jared Verse. He's not Myles Garrett, but he ain't a slouch either. No. And there is a gigantic gap between you have nobody, you have Myles, well, Jared Verse is right there in the middle.
That's right. The Cleveland Browns are no longer going to have the best defensive line group or have a chance to because they don't have Myles Garrett. But they absolutely have an organizational commitment to having a top 2 to 7 defensive line group.
I thought Bull had a great point the other day. How many Super Bowls has Myles Garrett won?
Well, we know that answer.
How many Super Bowls has Max Crosby won?
Yeah.
TJ Watt. Like the biggest names at the position have 0 and most of them don't have many playoff wins either. So it's not about necessarily the most dominant player at that position. It's about building a team. And the teams that win Super Bowls may not have that guy, but they have a complete team and they have a quarterback.